Do you understanding leadership? Hi everyone, my name is Bernard and I'm the group representative for Tutorial 1 Group 4. Today we would like to present the chapter 12, Understanding Leadership. Our group members are Zhen Yu, Zhe Xian, Ping Yi, Xiao Jun, Mei Ting, Yok Seng, Ming Yan, Jing Yuan, Wei Kiat, and me Bernard. That's all for our introduction part. I will pass the presentation to Mei Ting right now. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Mei Ting. For this slide, I will explain what a leader and leadership mean and why managers should also be a leader. A leader is a person who influences and guides others. A leader motivates people to work towards common goals and provides direction, support, and inspiration. Leadership, on the other hand, is the process of influencing people to achieve organizational goals. It involves vision, motivation, decision-making, and guidance. Managers should be leaders because leadership helps them motivate employees and improve performance. When managers lead well, employees are more willing to work as a team. Leadership also helps managers guide behavior, manage change, and reduce resistance. This is important when organizations face challenges or new situations. Lastly, good leadership helps build trust, commitment, and loyalty, while also developing employee skills. This allows the organization to achieve its goal more effectively. Next, this slide explains leadership based on the behavioral theory of leadership. This theory focuses on what leaders do, not on their personal traits. According to this theory, leaders differ from one another based on their observable behaviors. The first type is task-oriented behavior. Task-oriented leaders focuses on planning, organizing, and completing tasks. They set clear rules, roles, and performance standards, and they emphasize productivity and efficiency. The second type is people-oriented or relationship-oriented behavior. These leaders focuses on employees' needs and relationships. They encourage participation and teamwork, support their employees, and communicate openly. In conclusion, leaders differ in how they behave. Some focus more on tasks while others focus more on people, and both behaviors can affect employees' performance differently. That's all for me. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jing Yuan. Let us move on to question 3. Leaders are born, not made. Do you agree with this statement? Why or why not? I totally disagree with the statement leaders are born, not made. While some individuals may be born with natural traits such as confidence, charisma, or strong communication skill, leadership itself is developed through learning, experience, and self-reflection. Decision-making is one of the most important skills a leader must develop. Leaders are often responsible for making choices that affect not only themselves but also their team. Good decision-making involves gathering relevant information, considering different alternatives, and evaluating the possible consequences before choosing the best action. This process requires logical thinking and emotional control. Effective leaders do not rely only on instead of authorities when making decisions. Instead, they listen to different perspectives, seek feedback from team members. Moreover, behavioral and situational leadership theories show that effective leadership depends on how leaders behave and how they adapt to different situations. Many successful leaders will not born leaders but become effective through education, mentorship, failure, and real-world experience. For example, a person may initially lack confidence, but through training and exposure to leadership roles, they can grow into a competent and respected leader. Okay guys, let me show you a real-world example. Satya Nadella is a strong example showing that leaders are made, not simply born. When he first joined Microsoft, he was known as a quiet and a technically skilled engineer rather than a dominant leader. He did not naturally fit the stereotype of a born leader. Over many years, Nadella developed his leadership skill through education, experience, and self-reflection. He learned how to make strategic decisions, solving complex organization problems, and manage people effectively. He also worked on his communication and emotional intelligence, especially his ability to listen and emphasize with others. When Nadella became CEO in 2014, Microsoft was struggling with internal competition, declining innovation, and a poor collapse between departments. Instead of relying on authority, he made a decision to change the company culture. He promoted a growth mindset, encouraged teamwork, and shifted the company focus towards cloud computing. This decision required a careful analysis, a long-term thinking, and a strong problem-solving skill. Under his leadership, Microsoft regained innovation. This transformation was not the result of inborn leadership traits alone, but of learned skill, experience, and continuous improvement. This example clearly shows the leadership is not fixed at birth. While some people may have natural advantage, effective leadership is developed through learning, experience, and practice. Therefore, the statement "leaders are born, not made," I think is inaccurate. It is more reasonable to say that leaders are made over time.
Hi everyone, it's me Bernard again. So now I would like to present the question 4. A leader's effectiveness depends on their followers' ability. Which theory claims this and why? And my answer is situational leadership theory. Situational leadership theory, also known as SLT. This theory was proposed by Hershey and Blackett, and it emphasized that leadership effectiveness is not determined by a leader's personality or authority alone. According to SLT, there is not single best leadership style that works in all situations. Instead, an effective leader must adapt their leadership style based on the ability of their follower. In this theory, follower ability refers to their skills, knowledge, experience, and competence in performing a task. Situational leadership theory links follower ability to leadership style. When followers have low ability, they require more guidance and structure. In these situations, leaders are more effective when they use a directing leadership style, where instructions are very clear and supervision is high. As followers gain more experience and competence, their ability increases. At this stage, leaders should shift to a coaching style, which combining guidance with encouragement. When follower ability continues to grow, leaders become more effective by using a supportive style, where followers are involved in decision making. Finally, when followers have high ability, leaders can adopt a delegating style, which allowing followers to work independently with minimal supervisions. Therefore, situation leadership theory explains that a leader's effectiveness depends on how well they match their leadership styles to the followers' ability level. That's all for me. Thank you. I will pass my part to Pingy right now.
Hello everyone, my name is Ong Ping Yi and I will discuss about this question. Do you think that most managers in real life using a contingency approach to increase their leadership effectiveness? Let us discuss. Firstly, the contingency approach to leadership is built on a core idea. There's no one best way to lead. Instead, leadership effectiveness depends on matching one style to the specific situation. This perspective is supported by several well-established theories. For example, Fielder's contingency models argue that a leader's effectiveness is determined by the fit between their leadership style, whether task-oriented or relation-oriented, and the favorability of the situation, which includes factors like leader-member relation, task structure, and positional power. Similarly, situational leadership theory suggests that leaders should adjust their style based on the maturity or readiness of their followers. For less experienced team members, a more directive approach may be needed, while for competent and confident employees, a dedicating or supporting style maybe is more appropriate. Furthermore, path goal theory emphasizes the leader's role in clarifying goals, removing obstacles, and providing support to enhance employee motivation and performance, depending on the task structure and employee characteristics. In real-world practice, many effective managers do apply contingency thinking, often intuitively. They recognize that different contexts call for different approach. For instance, When managing new or junior employees, a manager might adopt a directive, hands-on style, providing clear instruction, cross supervision, and regular structured feedback to build competence and confidence. On the other hand, while leading a team of experienced professionals, the same manager might shift to a more dedicated and supportive style that encouraging autonomy, inviting input, and fostering the innovation. This flexibility is a hallmark of contingency-based leadership. However, it is important to acknowledge that not all managers consistently use this approach. Some tend to rely on a default or preferred style that worked in the past, even when it is not so suitable for the current team or task. This might be due to habit, lack of training, time pressure, or even organizational style culture that rewards a certain type of leadership. As a result, without adapting a situational demands, their leadership effectiveness can be limited. They may fail to motivate, may micromanage competent teams, or may not provide enough direction where it is truly needed. In conclusion, while the contingency approach is widely taught and recognized as effective, its application in real life varies. Successful managers often use it consciously or unconsciously, but many others could enhance their effectiveness by becoming more aware of situational factors and deliberately adapting their leadership style accordingly.
Hello everyone, I'm Dan Minian and I'll be presenting the first case application, which is about success theater at General Electric, and the topic is football focus. Let's have a look at the 10-point summary of this case application. First, the investigation of many senior FIFA executives shows that corruption was systematic rather than isolated, meaning it was embedded within organization's culture. Second, senior leaders fail to set ethical examples, which allow unethical behavior to become normalized across different levels of FIFA. Third, the fact that corruption continued for decades indicates a long-term tolerance of misconduct instead of early intervention or correction. Fourth, decision-making power, especially regarding World Cup hosting, was highly centralized among a small group of executives. Fifth, weak governance and ineffective oversight mechanism made bribery and vote trading practices easier to conceal. Sixth, FIFA only took meaningful action after external law enforcement intervened, showing that internal accountability system had failed. Seventh, FIFA's refusal to publish Michael Garcia's full report demonstrated a lack of transparency and reinforced public suspicion. 8. Internal resistance to investigations reflected an entrenched culture that prioritized protecting powerful elites. 9. These scandals caused a severe loss of trust among key stakeholders, including fans, players, sponsors, and member nations. Finally, the case highlights the urgent need for structural reforms focused on ethics, transparency, and accountability to build trust. Now let's turn to the next question, which is, what does the number of senior FIFA executives being investigated say about the culture at FIFA? The large number of senior FIFA executives being investigated indicates that corruption within FIFA was systematic rather than isolated. The involvement of top leadership suggests that unethical behavior had become normalized and embedded in organizations' culture. Rather than acting as role models, senior leaders either participated in or tolerated misconduct, signaling that ethical standards were weak and selectively enforced. The culture at FIFA was characterized by centralized power, poor transparency, and ineffective oversight mechanisms. Decision-making authority, especially regarding World Cup hosting, was concentrated among a small group of executives, creating opportunities for bribery. vote trading, and abuse of power. Internal accountability feel as meaningful action only occurred after intervention by external law enforcement authorities. Furthermore, FIFA's refusal to publish the full Garcia report demonstrates the culture of secrecy and resistance to scrutiny, in reinforcing perceptions that organizations prioritize self-protection over integrity. Overall, the investigations reveal an organizational culture that lacked ethical leadership, transparency, and accountability, ultimately leading to a severe loss of trust among stakeholders.
For this question, I believe the most important trust-building focus for FIFA should have been transparency, especially when we consider Michael J. Garcia's report. First, transparency. FIFA should have released the full Garcia report instead of a short summary. Garcia was hired to independently investigate corruption in the World Cup bidding process. When FIFA refused to publish its full findings, it created even more suspicion. This made fans, countries, and football organizations believe that FIFA was hiding the truth. Transparency would have shown honesty and genuine willingness to reform. Second, integrity. FIFA needed to demonstrate a real commitment to ethical conduct, not just protect its public image. The handling of the Garcia report suggested that FIFA was more concerned about reputation management than doing the right thing. Integrity means doing what is right even when it is uncomfortable or damaging in the short term. Third, accountability. Senior officials involved in misconduct should have been clearly held responsible. Without accountability, trust cannot be rebuilt. When leaders appear to escape consequences, it sends the message that unethical behavior is acceptable within the organization. Now, moving on to what the case says about Sepp Blatter's leadership style. First, Blatter's leadership can be described as autocratic and control-oriented. He exercised significant influence over FIFA's structure and decision-making processes. Power was concentrated at the top, which limited transparency and independent oversight. This type of leadership made it easier for unethical practices to continue without challenge. Second, the case shows low ethical leadership. Blatter's involvement in financial irregularities and his tolerance of a culture where corruption lasted for decades point to weak moral leadership. Leaders are expected to set an ethical example, but in this case, the behavior at the top contributed to widespread mistrust. Third, Blatter was reactive rather than proactive. Reforms were only introduced after intense public pressure, media exposure, and legal action by authorities. This suggested that ethical change was not driven by internal value, but by fear of consequences. Finally, his leadership focused more on image management than real solution. The decision to suppress the full Garcia report shows a preference for protecting FIFA's public image instead of addressing deep-rooted problems. This approach damaged FIFA's credibility even further.
My name is Tan Zhe Xian, holding student ID 25005718. Today I will be presenting my part that focusing specifically on question 12, 14 and 12, 15 from the case study Success Theatre at General Electric. My analysis looked at where leadership failed under Sepp Blatter and what style of leadership is necessary for the future success of Gianni Infantino. Let's begin with question 12-14, which focus on the former president Sepp Blatter. The case study highlights a critical moment in 2011 when Blatter was asked about the crisis surrounding rumors of financial irregularities. He chose to downplay the allegation dismissively rather than addressing them head-on. The question asks, which dimension of trust was he failing to demonstrate? Based on the 5 dimensions of trust outlined in our text, which are integrity, competence, consistency, loyalty, and openness, I have identified that Blatter's primary failure was a lack of openness. Openness means that a leader shares ideas and information freely and provides the whole truth. Vedder did the exact opposite. By dismissing the allegations, he refused to be transparent. He hid the reality of the corruption investigations, which we know involved over $150 million in bribes. This leads to a secondary failure: integrity. Integrity refers to honesty and truthfulness. When a leader dismisses valid accusation, they damage the perception of their own honesty and the ethical standing of the entire organization. Moving on to the question 12-15. We now look at the current president, Gianni Infantino. The question asks, what style of leadership would be most effective for Infantino to succeed? First, we must understand the challenge. Infantino inherited an organization with a severely tarnished reputation. His role is to rebuild trust with clubs, countries, players, and fans. This is not a stable situation. It is a recovery mission. Therefore, I argue that the most effective style for him is transformational leadership. The text defines a transformational leader as someone who stimulates and inspires followers to achieve goals, rather than just exchanging rewards for productivity. We cannot use a simple transactional style here, because the old way of doing business was corrupt. Infantino needs to inspire a complete cultural overhaul. He needs to transform the mindset of the organization from secrecy to accountability. To do this, he must rely on trust-based leadership. He needs to prioritize the very thing Blatter ignored: integrity and openness. This means implementing reforms that are visible to the public to prove that the organization has actually changed.
Hello everyone, my name is Buyok Shin. Matrix number is 24217876. Today I will be presenting the 10-point summary of the case application 2. To begin our analysis of case application 2, let's look at the leadership foundation of Sir Alex Ferguson. As the slide shows, he wasn't just a manager, he was a legend who led Manchester United to massive success over 26 years. Now, you may have heard of his famous discipline style, often called the hairdryer treatment, because he was shot with such ferocity. The point will be, Ferguson was adaptable. He did not treat everyone the same. He adapted his leadership style to fit each player's personality. He knew that while some needed the hairdryer to wake them up, others need encouragement. This ability to diagnose and adapt was the secret to his longevity. He focused on changing the club culture. He tackled deep-rooted issues like a drinking culture and replaced them with high standard and discipline. A key part of this culture was identity. As you can see in the top right, he emphasized that wearing the Manchester United badge is a privilege. He insisted players wear club badges to foster a sense of belonging and commitment, ensuring that represented the club professionally at all times. Continuing with the second part of our summary, Ferguson's adaptability extended to his communication. As the top left notes, he switched between strict and supportive style depending on the situation. He understood that a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work in a high-performance teams, but his leadership went beyond the players. Look at the bottom left. He showed immense respect for all staff. He believed the organization was bigger than just a team. so he learns the name of everyone, from the support crew to the field crew. This simple act built deep loyalty across the entire club. His philosophy was involve efficiency in conflict. As noted in this center, he dealt with mistake immediately and then move on. He did not hold grudge. We can compare him to Steve Jobs. Both were demanding and driven leaders, but Ferguson was uniquely emotionally aware and flexible enough to vary his approach for different people. This unique blend of toughness and emotion intelligence was so effective that it transcended sports, as you can see in the final point. After retiring, his method was studied academically. He took a teaching post at Harvard Business School, cementing his status as a Master of Management. Moving on to the question, what leadership theories do Ferguson action support? Based on the case study, we identify 4 key theories. First is situational leadership theory. The test highlights that Ferguson did not use a one-size-fits-all approach. Instead, he practiced matching style to readiness. He made a conscious choice to vary his leadership style, sometimes strict, sometimes supportive, by diagnosing exactly what each player needed to deliver their best performance. Second, he used transformational leadership. He went beyond simple management to changing culture. He tackled poor habits like the team drinking culture to instill a strong work ethic. He also focused on creating identity, making players feel a sense of belonging by enforcing standards like wearing club blazers. Third is behavioral leadership theory. Ferguson mastered the balance between task-oriented behaviors such as maintaining high standards and immediate discipline and people-oriented behaviors. He prioritized relationships, going so far as to learn the names of support staff to build personal connection. Finally, we see visionary leadership. Ferguson joined the club with very definite ideas and a clear long-term plan. Every action he took, from dress code to discipline, was strategically aligned to contribute that specific vision to success. Thank you.
Good morning everyone, my name is Sun Wee Kia with my matrix number 250055505. Today I will be presenting the question 1217, with the question is, what leadership traits do you see being demonstrated in the case? So, the first trait we see is drive. Leadership exhibit a high effort level, a high desire for achievement, and are persistent and ambitious. Ferguson fits this definition perfectly. The case study explicitly describes him as driven and determined. This even compared to Steve Jobs for his relentless pursuit of success in a highly competitive arena. He didn't just win once, he maintained that high energy for over a quarter of a century. Next is a desire to lead. This is defined as a strong desire to influence others and the willingness to take responsibility. When Ferguson joined in 1986, he didn't sit back. He had very definite ideas about how to build a club. He took immediate responsibility to change the very culture of the club, specifically tackling a damaging drinking culture that was holding the team back. He wanted to lead, not just manage. The third trait is self-confidence. Followers look for leaders who don't doubt themselves. Leaders must show confidence to convince others of their decisions. Ferguson demonstrated immense self-confidence. He had a fearsome reputation and wasn't afraid to use the hairdryer treatment, which is shouting at players, to set standards. More importantly, when a team captain publicly criticized his teammates, Ferguson didn't hesitate. He terminated the captain's contract immediately. This shows he had absolute belief in his authority and judgment. Effective leaders also need job-relevant knowledge. This means having a high degree of knowledge about company, industry, and technical matters. Ferguson didn't just know about football tactics. The case that he really knew his players and understood how to get the best out of each one individually. He also understood the organization as a whole, taking the time to learn the names of support staff and even the firm crew. He knew that the organization was bigger than the team. Trait number 5 is intelligence. Leaders need to be able to gather and interpret large amounts of information to create vision and solve problems. Ferguson wasn't just reacting to games, he was planning for long-term success. His leadership style wasn't random angles. The case tells us it was a conscious choice. He analyzed each player psychologically to decide if they needed a sharp or a softer approach. That requires a high emotional and cognitive intelligence. Finally, we have extraversions. Leaders are energetic, lively, and sociable people. While Ferguson was strict, he wasn't withdrawn. He showed his assertiveness through his high standards, but he also showed sociability. The case describes him sharing a bottle of champagne and conversing with a film crew, showing he could engage with people outside his immediate circle to build relationship. Thank you. Hi everyone. Now I am presenting the question 12-18, where the question is, to what degree has emotional intelligence played a part in Alex Ferguson's success? So the first is empathy and situational awareness. Ferguson didn't treat every player the same. He made a conscious choice to vary his style. He realized that while some players needed aggressive discipline to perform, others needed an arm around the shoulder. He didn't just shout, he really knew his players. The second is he possessed incredible social skills. He understood that organization was bigger than the team. By learning the names of the support staff and even sharing champagne with the film crew, he built a unified culture where everyone felt valued. Moving to the third point, many people mistake his anger for a lack of control. In reality, Ferguson demonstrated high self-regulation. His use of the hairdryer was a strategic tool to instill discipline. He wasn't losing his temper, he was using emotion to shout the team into higher performance. He regulated his emotion to achieve a specific outcome. Finally, there's motivation. The case describes him as driven and determined. He didn't just have the drive for himself, he transferred it to the club. By attacking the drinking culture and demanding a strong work ethic, he set a standard of excellence that lasted for 26 years. Now I will pass to my teammates to explain the question 12-19. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Jin Zheng Yu with my matrix number 25005734. So today I'm going to discuss the question 12-19. What are the possible problems of varying the leadership approach with different players? So in the Alex Ferguson case, we can see that he intentionally used different leadership approach for different players, while this situational style contribute to his long-term success. It also comes with several potential problems if not managed carefully. So first, perceived favoritisms. While leaders treat players differently, some team members may feel that certain players are receiving special or preferential treatments. In Ferguson's case, some players were publicly scolded, while others were handled more privately. Without proper understanding, this could create jealous, divisions, and tension within the team, which may weaken trust and team unity. Second, misjudging players' needs. Varying leadership style requires the leader to accurately read each player's personality, motivation, and emotional state. If a leader misjudges a player's need, this chosen approach may backfire. For example, harsh criticisms intended to motivate could instead demoralize a player, while a softer approach might reduce discipline. This could lead to underperformance or loss of confidence. Third, inconsistency in expectations. Different leadership approach can send mixed signals about rules, disciplines, and performance standards. If players observe the feedback or discipline varies from person to person, this may become confused about what is expected of them. Over time, this uncertainty can reduce accountability and negatively affect performance. Finally, erosion of authority. If a leader appears too flexible or inconsistent, players may begin to question the leader's authority and fairness. In extreme cases, this can weaken discipline and encourage players to challenge decisions or rules. Without strong credibility, the leader's ability to maintain control and unity within the teams may decline. So in conclusion, while Ferguson's ability to vary his leadership style was effective due to his experience and emotional intelligence, This approach carries risks. It requires careful judgment, clear communications, and strong authority to ensure that flexibility does not undermine trust, disciplines, or team cohesion. That's all from me. Thank you.